And this is in from John. And it's according to Reuters German finance agency managing director Karl-Heinz Daub told a bond conference in London. He says, I think if one of the 16 members would default, it would be a collapse of the whole system. Furthermore, he stated if a country goes bankrupt, it will be the end of the Eurozone.
Well, I think secretly, and this is why Ron Paul asked the questions he did last week to Bernanke in the hearings, because I think Ron probably knows, and there must be a leak someplace, that the U.S. has put up the money for them to lend to Greece to keep them solvent until the U.S. is ready with the Brits to pull the plug on everything. And that's what I think is going on.
You know, I just got an article in, and it was about war with Iran, Israel and Iran coming this May. There's been a notice that and this was because the Pope was traveling to Portugal, and Catholics might see that as a sign, as something going on in that area with Iran and Israel. You think that would have any credence with them going to war in May?
I can't answer. I don't know. I do know that the people in the Middle East who are very, very wealthy people who are subscribers told me they thought it would happen by the end of February, and obviously they were wrong. So who knows? They do have it planned, and they want to do it, but I don't know when they're going to do it.
All right. Here's a question in from Tim. He would like to hear you describe deflation. What does it mean to jobs? What does it mean to grocery prices? What will go up and what will go down price-wise?
I was distracted. Could you repeat it, please?
Yes. Tim would like to hear you describe deflation. What does it mean to jobs, grocery prices? What will go up and what will go down price-wise?
Jobs, inflation bring high prices, lower sales, job losses. Inflation depletes buying power. We just had today the increase in wages, which is 0.1% or 0.01. In other words, it was minuscule. And so you get it on both ends. People are not making more money, and people are losing money through inflation. They can't buy as much, so less people get to work. That's the combination right there.
Here's a further comment from John. He says, Iran further consolidated its anti-U.S. coalition and honed its hard edge against Israel this week with two important defense treaties signed with Syria covering Lebanon and Qatar, home to the biggest U.S. airbase outside America. These treaties open doors for Iranian troops to be stationed in all three countries. And he says, according to DEPCA's files, military sources, they're already present in Syria and Lebanon.
Well, there you go. The U.S. is getting ready. And, you know, I do a show with Drew Rains on Thursdays, the Marine Disposition, and it's pretty rife throughout the Corps in other branches of the service what's really going on. And I'll tell you, these guys got to be really disgusted. And they don't say much about it because it's not good for their health to do so, or their careers. And I wouldn't want to be in their shoes. And I get all the time the question, should I re-enlist? And it's such a hard one to answer, because if they come out, there's probably no job for them. If they stay in, they might get dead. That's not a very good choice.
This question is in from, I'm not quite sure the name, but he really needs it answered. He listens to the program, he needs to make a decision, and he says, you have repeatedly stated that residential real estate values will fall another half of their present current value. He wants to know if this will hold for farmland also, specifically small farms in Pennsylvania.
Well, I think that prices could fall 20%, which would put the average loss at about 40% countrywide. But there's other places that are already off 50 or more, and some of them could go off 70. As far as land is concerned, it's very difficult to discern. If there's a shortage of capitalization, then money's not going to be there for people to buy your farm. And so I would say that there would generally be pressure on the value of farm values. But I don't know how much. It's not an area I know a lot about. And I got to be honest with you, I'm just guessing and trying to be logical. I really can't answer the question.
Do you think that might, if we actually have food shortages, so many of these farms, though, are all owned by these larger companies.
70%.
Pardon?
70%.
70%. So would they come in and scoop up?
No, they probably export the stuff so they can make more money on it. I'm telling you, I've told people over and over again there's going to be food shortages. If you don't get your food in, you're an idiot. Pretty simple. And even if you're of limited means, if you like baked beans, buy a couple of extra cans and rotate them.
Yep.
I mean, if you like green beans, buy an extra couple of cans and rotate them. And on and on. And, pick up dehydrated and freeze-dried foods when you can in small amounts. It beats starving. And most important, you got to have that filter, because if you lose your water system, you can always go down to the river or over to the stream and get your water. And you got to have water and food. And most people, especially who live in the country, they get weapons. So that's good. So, lots of people do in the city, but not like they do in the country.
And you know what, Bob? I think a lot of people do this, and I find myself doing it also. Perhaps I should admit it, but I will. But you know what? Sometimes you go through, it seems like everything, we're in the quiet, perhaps, of the storm. Maybe things aren't as unfolding as rapidly as what you thought, so you sit back, think, I got plenty of time, I'll worry about it tomorrow. I already have some food, so you forget about it. And, it's easy to do. I mean, just like people see the stock market up at 10.5, they become a little bit of, calmed by thinking that, things aren't as bad as what it is, but it is, and you can't put off.
You'll all of a sudden get hit over the head with a mallet.
Yep. It'll bite you.
And then if you do save, your friends who you told about it, they'll be there wanting for you to give them food.
Yep.
That's a decision you're going to have to make. I've already covered that in previous programs, but
I always recommend also, you talk about canned, I love canned vegetables. Store up on those, because if there is a water shortage, you can always recycle that water that those vegetables are canned with, if you really had to, A lot of you have that freeze dry, you might have to add water to it, and, if you don't want to use your drinking water, and you can always add that. So, there's a lot of things that you learn how to do when you have to do it. And so, if you're running low on something, just go get it.
Well, I'll get one in here.
Okay.
This is the one I was talking about. I got 3 or 4 of them here now. They keep on coming in. Incidentally, the dollar was up today, 80.74. 0.37 is what I got last. This is from Larry. a Mediterranean Union might seem like a good idea. Oh, no, that's not the question. That's my answer. I answered them already. With Britain and the EU in financial difficulty, where do you see the Mediterranean Union's place in the future, politically and economically, if the 16 bankrupt countries have their devaluation, revaluation, and debt settlement meeting? Is it probable that they would leave the EU for the Mediterranean Union, since some of the countries are among the pigs? Interesting facts. The presidency of the EU was passed in Spain in January 2010. In other words, the next